Welcome to Sexology, a podcast that untangles the science of sex and pleasure. And now, with this week's episode, your host, clinical psychologist, Dr. Nazanin Moali.
Hello there. You are listening to another episode of Sexology Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nazanin Moali. If you are a new listener, welcome. I have a gift for you. Last month, I put together a list of all of the wonderful erotic material that my clients had shared with me throughout the years, whether from the reading material, whether from audio, whether some videos that are connected to ethical porn. And I put all of them together and put it on the list, and you can download it in the show notes. The reason that I curated this list was because many of you guys asked about the resources on material that can help you get in the mood. And this is my gift for you, and it's completely free. My apologies for my voice. Last weekend, my sister surprised me with my birthday bash, and it's been a huge milestone for me. So I went all out, I partied all night, and now 4 days later, my voice has been impacted. Our guest today is Dr. Soum Rakshit. He is the CEO and co-founder of MysteryVibe. Today, we're going to talk about what goes into designing an award-winning sex toy, how you can incorporate a sex toy in your bedroom. We're going to talk about ways that various companies trying to push the boundaries against the sex negative culture. So if you're ever curious about what goes behind the scene for people who design this material, this is the episode for you. As I mentioned, our guest is Dr. Soum Rakshit. He's the co-founder and CEO of award-winning sexual health company MysteryVibe. Their mission is to make sexual health accessible to all across all ages, gender, and orientation. From his research and experiences over the past 2 decades, Soum deeply understands that a major challenge in most people's life is keeping the mystery alive in a long-term relationship. This is especially the case after major life events like childbirth, menopause, cancer treatment, or surgery. In his role as CEO of MysteryVibe, he focuses on pushing the boundaries on research and development, customer experience, and supporting their long-term goal of making sexual health an integral part of our overall health. They actually generously sponsored this episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed this show. At the end, I'm going to talk about my experience of experimenting with Crescendo, which is one of their 3 toys, and I'll talk to you there. Hello and welcome to another episode of Sexology Podcast. I am so excited to have Dr. Soum Rakshit on our show. Soum, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am very excited about this conversation. I know before starting recording, we were chatting a little bit about your background, and now I know you're a co-founder and CEO of MysteryVibe, and such an interesting company that you guys are not only producing sex toys, but you guys are doing other things that contributes to breaking the stigma around sexual health challenges that people have. So your background is in electrical engineering. Tell us, how did you get to owning, co-founding this company?
Yes, very much so. Actually, it's not that different. What we build is really electronic devices, right? And we happen to make them in the medical space in applications of various sexual health issues. So my background is engineering and electronics, and I've always done that. My undergrad, master's, PhD, everything has been in electronics. And I always wanted to build things that is useful, which all electronic engineers want. And the thing that we as friends and now co-founders always talked about is how can you keep the sex and mystery in the bedroom after big life events like having a baby or going through menopause or aging and erection problems or cancer, recovering from cancer, surgery. All of these things are so common, happens to everyone at some point, and the sex life and sexual health overall gets affected. But at least when we started thinking about it, talking about it 10 years ago, there wasn't much discussion on it. Very few people talked about it. And when we talked to doctors, they said less than 1 in 4 ever go to a doctor when they have problems. So that's why we thought if we wanted to do something useful with all of our experience in electronics, why not get together with doctors and create devices which help with improving erections, help with alleviating pain after childbirth, pain after menopause, or pain during intercourse, or address arousal issues, dryness issues. So all of these things that just affect everyone at some point. So that's how we ended up in a medical company with an engineering background. And the other thing is we always wanted to make it very approachable. We didn't want it to be a clinical device that you feel scared or you feel intimidated by. So we made it very pleasure-centric, very much how do you improve your orgasm? How do you improve your sex? Not that you have a problem and you need to fix it, but you might be great already in bed. Maybe you want to take it to the next level, which is, in the name, like crescendo means to reach a new peak in music. The other thing we really wanted to do is help people bring that mystery back in the bedroom. And this is actually inspired by Esther Perel. She gave an amazing talk on TED back in 2012, which said, if you want to have a long-term happy relationship, you need to keep that spark, that mystery in the bedroom. And by doing simple things like, back when we could travel, just going away for work for a week and coming back, you want to be with each other more than if you're 27 with someone. So that's why we created the brand MysteryVibe, where everything we do, whether it's content we write, whether it's advice you'll get from our site, whether it's our products, they help you keep that spark in your relationship, bring that back. Or if you're playing on your own, how do you bring that playfulness back, especially now after a year and a half of lockdown, which has led to a lot of people really missing out on pleasure and with themselves and with their partners. What can we do to help bring that back, create that, be that catalyst, create that spark?
So I think that's fantastic that you co-founded this company a few years ago. I feel right now everyone is interested in creating some kind of sex tech, getting into this industry. And it seems like you guys have been perfected number of different things when it comes to helping individuals and couples to enhance their sexual health and sexual wellness. My listeners, they know that I moved here from Iran. My background, I'm Iranian American, and did my PhD in psychology. People think about, oh God, from all the options you had, why sex? That's that kind of a stigmatized taboo topic. I wonder about you. How do people react when they know you have a sexual health company?
It's a really good question. I think it's changed over the years, and I can relate to Iran because a lot of India is Persian from our history. In fact, most of our architecture in North India, most of our food is all Persian. So it's not very dissimilar. It's very similar in terms of our society and upbringing. I think it's changed a lot in the last 10 years. So 10 years ago, when we were talking about this, we wondered, would we be able to hire good people to work in the space of sexual health? Would they want to talk about it, or would they work without talking about it? How do you raise money? Would investors be scared to be associated with a company which deals with sex? Even getting a bank account was quite challenging when we first started.
Interesting. How come?
So it's just because of the association of vice. So it's a very general category called vice. And the vice could be tobacco, vice could be drugs, vice could be guns. So a lot of things fall under this very broad category of vice. And of course, there is very good reason for a lot of people to not be associated with it. So many investors might say, I don't want to fund guns. That's totally fine if that's their view, and it should be respected. Same as drugs, same as, alcohol, tobacco, whatever it is. And my view is if they have a certain reason why they don't want to be associated with sex, and sex is quite broad and it's really tricky because of course, you don't want to be associated with illegal things like child porn, for example. And no one would say, if you have a startup which does that, it should get funded. it shouldn't. So sex is a really complex topic because laws differ by country. So for example, something like sex work, it might be legal in Germany, but it might be illegal in Poland, right? And their neighbors. And then it might be legal in UK if it's self-employed, but it is illegal if it's organized. So it's really nuanced. And of course, you can't support anything illegal in that country, irrespective of what it is. So it is complex. Sex is a very complex topic and very society and geography specific. So what happens is a lot of, specifically from a finance and investment perspective, people often take the easy route and, put everything sex in one bucket and say, we don't do it, right? And I think that's changing because over the last 10 years, a lot has happened. And that's the exciting bit, like you were saying, a lot of people have started creating businesses, small or large, in this space. And it has given, and society and people have started to embrace it. Like here, you can buy a sex toy on a supermarket or website like Tesco or Sainsbury, right? You can buy it in Target in US. That is a big deal. Like 10 years ago, you couldn't even think that was possible. So when things like that happen, then people like investors, like banks, and normal people looking at job roles stop thinking it as something very, very taboo and start thinking of it as more mainstream, more normal. And that's all I believe all the sex tech founders want, is to normalize sex, sexual health, sexual wellness, not want it to be special, just want it to be another topic, right? So for example, if you created a business in finance, what is called fintech, which is very big in UK, raising money is quite straightforward. As long as it's a good company idea, it should be the same. If it's a good company idea, have a good team, you have a good vision, then it should be treated like just that. It shouldn't be treated special because it's sex. It shouldn't be treated special in the negative sense either. So I think that's where we are getting to, and it's very exciting for us to see, because we've seen the whole journey from no one wanted to talk about it to now, we've won so many awards, and not just general awards, not just industry awards, general awards. Like we won Design Week for Crescendo, and that is such a prestigious design award that Apple competed with us, and we beat Apple Watch. So we were very excited about that. So that's the kind of thing I always wanted when we started the business, is can we build it like a very normal company with very normal goals, good products, happy customers, and commercially profitable long-term business.
You talked about design, and I saw that you guys won kind of prizes, and you won the prize for the design, and that's very interesting. You're right that you said like you competed with Apple product, and the product is very well designed. I think when many people produce sex toys, they think about power or things around delivery. But I know many of my female clients, specifically, the design is really important for them. You don't want it to look super tacky or like things that's kind of like really kind of with odd colors and all of that. And I was just sharing with you that I love the design that you guys shared. You guys sent me crescendo. How do you pronounce that? Crescendo, and it's very tastefully designed. So tell us a little bit more about what goes into the design of a sex toy.
Thank you for asking us. This is what I'm most passionate about, because that was the whole point of creating MysteryVibe, is bringing devices that serve very specific purposes and designed to adapt to the body rather than expect that something fixed will work for everyone. So Crescendo, which you can see, and obviously you have one, is designed to mimic two fingers. So it's exactly like two fingers. And the inspiration for that was midwives tell, at least here in the UK, in NHS, post-childbirth, in order to heal vaginal scar tissue. So for example, when you have stretch marks during childbirth, the vaginal scar tissues need to be massaged in order to get blood flow and heal them faster. So they will tell you, can you chin and try to find your pain areas and gently massage them. Obviously, that's quite challenging, especially there's often perineal tear, and the last thing you want to do is touch any painful area. So we design this to be like your finger, flexible with joints. It's exactly like the finger.
Mm.
And then you can just hold and target and deliver vibration very, very easily. So it's designed to be a very flexible, long vibrating finger extender. And what is interesting, and it's because the human finger is so versatile and can do so many things, and is the most commonly used masturbation equipment by humans, right? So what was interesting is even though we designed it for a very specific medical application to start with, as we got more people to try it, thousands and then tens of thousands, we got feedback on all the various applications that people used it for. So, for example, if you bend crescendo into a shape, which is like a C, you can then place it with a gentle vibration on the lower abdomen when you experience period pain. And it's very effective because pain relief is often a vibration belt. So it simply acts as a very nicely hugging vibration belt to alleviate period pain. From that, we then ended up being contacted by a company called Pain Care Labs in Atlanta. And they licensed Crescendo, which is now used in their back pain belts with heat and cold packs. So the applications of the design is very exciting because it helps a lot of different people achieve improvement in their health conditions, whether it's sexual or otherwise. And that is true for all of our products. So Poco, which is the mini Crescendo, is designed for people who want a more ergonomic and simple product. So this one, again, bends, but it's half the size, but it's very easy to grip, very big buttons. So this was designed for accessibility, very big buttons, big lights, easy grip, just hold and target. So this one was designed particularly for vulvodynia. But again, it's now used for a variety of applications. And then Tenuto, again, very adaptable. You stretch it to fit 80 to 90% of penis sizes, wrap around, allow for ejaculation if you want to have a baby, for example, perineal stimulation and labia stimulation of the person that you're having intercourse with. So a lot of different things at the same time, again, to make sex better, to make intercourse better, to add that mystery in the bedroom. So the general design principle of all of our products is adaptability. How can we create something that we ship to you and you decide what works for you? Is it this? Is it this? And you can then also change the product as you want over time. So it doesn't mean that you decide this works for you today, but tomorrow you might want a straight device. And that's our goal with all of our products, is to create platforms that are very easy to use, not complicated. We have a lot of our customers in their 70s and 80s, and they don't care about the app. They don't care about Bluetooth connectivity. They're like, just tell me, how do I turn it on? How do I use it? Done. Nothing more than that. And that's our goal, is to use tech, and the tech might be very complex inside, but then hide it, make it really simple. So you just turn it on, see what you like, and whether it's address some pain or issues or just enjoy as pleasure. And that's our real core with design.
That is fascinating. So the product was so great that they got the patent to use it in their for the belt as part of the system they had. That is so interesting. And I agree with you that what is appealing about this device was that how you can change the shape easily. Sometimes when you get devices like sexual health devices, sex toys, that becomes very specific instruction. This is what you're doing. This is what it does. And if that's not the kind of pleasure you're seeking for, if you're not looking for G-spot stimulation, then this is not going to be as useful. But it seems like your device offers creativity. One thing that's interesting, you're talking about bringing mystery in the bedroom. What I hear a lot from my patient is that they want to use toys with their partner, but I feel it can turn to a bruise to the partner's ego. So almost it does opposite for many couples, that they know it's useful, they just don't know how to bring it up. Is that something that you guys have faced as you were kind of creating this, kind of like doing the market research?
I would say that's the biggest question we get. So much so that it is now a whole page and a book on our website which says how to start the conversation. So on our website now, so there's the products. It talks about the products. And the first thing after that is get started, the conversations, because that is the biggest challenge, like you've seen with your clients and what we get, with tens of thousands of our customers tell us, can you give us some ideas? And sometimes it's ideas like, okay, we are talking about it, but we need some ideas on how to play. So we have an in-house artist, a painter, who's full-time, just draws beautiful art. And every week we put in a new one. So you'll see there will be like 70 or 80 on our page. It's called How to Play. And it's just colorful, beautiful pictures. And if you want, you can always order a print of it. And we print the whole thing and send you, and you can just use them as card. And again, we surveyed our customers. We said, do you want it as a book or do you want it like we have? So they're separate cards in an envelope, and they prefer it because they said, oh, we'll just take a card and then we'll, put it in the bed and then we'll follow it. It's just very simple. You can really, really simple things. So just going back to the very specific, how do you introduce a sex toy into the bedroom, and how do you tackle the issue of feeling replaced or feeling threatened by it? It's a really, after all of our research, the answer is actually really easy. Make it about the other person. So this one, for example, if
that is the male toy, because people cannot see it.
So the Tenuto toy, which is an intercourse toy rather than a male toy. So it's to help improve your intercourse, improve erection, improve labia stimulation. Say the female partner wants to introduce it, and this is seen as a cock ring, as a category. Then if you don't put it into context, it might seem like you want your partner to have a better erection, longer erection, and he might feel like, isn't my erection good enough? However, if you say, I found this amazing product which stimulates my labia and my clit, and I really love that external stimulation, it makes me aroused, it lubricates me, it makes sex so much better. So I bought it and I put it on your penis during intercourse so I can feel it. And that changes the perspective, that changes the story, and it makes it really easy to introduce it, because then you say, this is going to make my sex better. Yeah. And your partner will be like, okay, this is great. If you're extra happy with it. And almost everybody knows that external stimulation is far more common for most women to achieve arousal and orgasm than purely intercourse and internal stimulation. So that is one example. The other example from the man's side is, let's say you want to introduce crescendo as a G-spot vibrator in the bedroom. Then the easiest way to do that is to, and I'll talk about the before purchase in a second. The easiest way to do that is as a gift, and as a gift that you make it all about research. So and this is all our research in understanding how sex and pleasure can be talked about in the bedroom. What the female partner looks for generally when it comes to gifts in the bedroom is the male partner did a lot of research and put a lot of thought into the gift they purchase. And this is true for general buying a gift. So if they can talk about, and this is what we tell you in our website and in the guides, if they can talk about the research they did, why they found this product, why they think this is going to elevate the crescendo, it's going to take their pleasure to the next level, and why they care about it and they're very excited about it, then everything is positive. Everything is, you're already great and we are already great, but I'm so excited to try this, to take you to a new realm of orgasmic bliss that you've never felt before, right? And that is the thing that endears them. They don't feel threatened. They don't feel it is a substitute for bedroom boredom. They feel like, oh, this is all about elevating where we are. And taking a step back before you even get to the purchasing a sex toy and whatever that may be, the first thing to do is bring in well-regarded media piece on the topic that you want to discuss. And an example is, let's say you want to explore anal sex, okay? fine. That could be something you are curious about and you haven't tried it, or maybe you did and it didn't go well. So you're thinking, oh, how do I talk about it, right? And it's not a topic you just jump into without any context. So the easiest way to do that is search for anal play, anal sex, anal pleasure generally, and find, and I'm sure you will always, and if you can't, you can always contact us and we will find it for you. Topic that has been written in a reputable media, and reputable media is very important. And the thing is, this is why today's world is so much easier than 10 years ago, because today's world, reputable media, could be as big as New York Times writes about sex and pleasure. And that's, or BBC, CNN, whatever, right? That is where it becomes shareable. Because the problem is, if you find an article on anal sex in, let's say, an adult magazine, even if the article is 100% accurate, well-researched and amazing, it's very difficult to share with your partner. Because then, unless you already have that relationship where you read adult magazines together, it's quite tricky. But if it's in a big newspaper, sharing an article like New York Times or BBC is super easy. And there you share as, hey, I came across this really interesting article, check it out, just like you would any other. And the play of words is really important there. You say interesting to keep it open-ended, because they might hate anal sex, right? In this one, in this topic, as in this example, they might hate it, and for whatever reason. And they might say, oh my God, I hate it. I'm not sure why people are talking about it, right? At least, and you're protected by that strong media brand, because you said interesting. And when he or she replies saying, I hate it, then you're like, oh yeah, this is very weird. But the other way, if the person says, this is really interesting, let's explore further, you've opened the floodgates, right? Now you can go deeper, explore things, look up sexy videos, and then you can get into it, right? And you can research and figure out how to make it pleasurable. The first step is the most important step in that piece when you're trying to introduce something pleasure into the bedroom. It doesn't matter whatever it is, whether it's just a different type of play, whether it's toys, or even, you want to try a sex party or threesomes, which involves other people. Whatever that is, it's just on a spectrum of very simple to quite complex, right? And it's the steps of the same. Find that topic in a big, reputable newspaper or magazine, share it, get feedback, and see where it goes.
Oh, that's very interesting. I can see that that's a risk, right? What if you're really into something and your partner doesn't know that, and you're kind of middle of the workday getting an email, oh, this is interesting. I say, I hate it. And then this is something, it's a kink that you want. And then it's just hard to go from that place to place of, no, I want it.
That is true. And that's a really good point. And what we found is, and there's actually a higher level of this, because so bringing mystery into the bedroom is the core of everything we do, and which is why this is a topic we research a lot. So the next level after this is, once you have that dialogue going on, and that's why the conversation is key, you can get to sharing fetish lists. Yeah. And you can do that on something like FetLife, or you can just do it anywhere really. So imagine you build your profile, you pick 50 different things you fantasize about, right? And then your partner creates his or her profile, picks 50 different things they fantasize about. And then you will find, let's say, 10, 15, 20 things that are in common. You will never find 15 common. And that is fine. That is good. That's normal. No one will ever have the same desires. No two people, even twins, right? So the key is, and in every, dual unit couple we have ever talked to about this, once they've done that experiment, they have discovered things that they were sure their partner wouldn't do like, and then that changed their sex life forever, right? And I think that is the key, is getting to that point sooner rather than later. There's no point both wishing the other person desires what they desire and actually both do, but not knowing it. That's the worst, right? If one person desires X and the other person doesn't, that's totally normal. And it's impossible that everyone will desire exactly the same thing. And I think that's fine. The sad thing is desiring the same thing, wanting it badly and not knowing.
Yes, and kind of knowing there's possibility there. And I tell people have different angles around this. You're right that you can kind of like sharing an article or having these sexy dates that you can talk about once and your fantasies and those kind of things and doing games. So there are different entry points for you to talk, to introduce your sexual self to your partner. Beside the sexual kind of health product that you guys created, the sex toys, I was very fascinated with the idea of the pleasure finder. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. What is pleasure finder? Tell our listeners about it.
So Pleasure Finder was our attempt at making exactly this, discussions about pleasure and sex toys and general masturbation, anything, very common topics on the pleasure side, not the medical side, extremely easy for people to get into their living room. So, and this is literally, again, trying to help be that catalyst, which is, everything we do, right? Be that catalyst for people, make it very, very easy for people to talk about it. So Pleasure Finder is the first time any voice assistant ever has allowed something like, tell me about masturbation, that question on it, right? So we were, one, very excited, two, very proud, and there is a lot more that can happen after that. So we started this with Alexa, and this is, all of this takes ages, right? There's months and months of back and forth policy, and it's always with policy. But at the end we didn't get there, and that was our expectation, right? This has never been done before. They will say no. You can't talk about masturbation and sex toys. This is not cool. Yeah, didn't get anywhere. Fine. So then we talked to Google, Home, Google Assistant. And then, again, initially, no, this can't be done. And then we always try to figure, okay, what do you want us to do? How can we comply with policy? Because we want to bring about change. There's no more point trying to do something very brash and hoping that you can get in without getting caught. So what is currently now live is a very, very watered down version of what we started with. But the fact that it is there and is there officially, we went through all the processes, we went through policy, and it's been there for months now. It means that others anywhere in the world can now say, hey, look, you let them in. Now it has, the precedent is set. Others can now build upon it, add their Q&A, whatever. They can now do more. And hopefully other brands, Apple, Siri, Alexa Home will start to see, oh, Google's doing it and Google's getting a lot of traction for doing it. Why not? We should get into this. It's the same as, how sex tech evolved over the last 10 years. Now it's cool, but 10 years ago it was not touchable, right? So I think that's the real thing about Pleasure Finder. The Q&A is very simple. It's like, how to introduce a sex toy into the bedroom. It's very basic things. But the fact that it's in there is significant. And there's, I think as of right now, over 1 billion devices which has Google Assistant. Every Android phone has one, which is massive. And on top of that, a lot of people have Google Home in their houses. It's really the biggest voice assistant in the world. So it means 1 billion people can right now, as of, as we said, open their Google Assistant and say, hey, Google, talk to Pleasure Finder. And it will tell you all of these. I think there's like 15 different questions and answers that we worked with experts to write and then water down and then get approved eventually. So a very, very exciting thing for us. Again, the objective is get it into the living room so people make it super easy for them to ask these questions, get some. The answers are very simple, very small, but then it starts that question. Even if it means a couple will listen and have a little laugh, it's the first step towards, oh wow, it's on Google. How did they get in? And that conversation starts. So yeah, no, we're very, very excited and very proud that we managed to get it done. And what we're looking for now is others to do more. It costs nothing. It just costs time. It costs nothing. There's no money involved. Creating what's known as a skill set, that's the technical term for it, is just someone taking the time to do it, right?
It's
And
so awesome.
we really want people. It doesn't have to be sex tech founders or anyone. I just want people to submit questions, create the skill sets, and hopefully use our example to get past policy much faster than we did, which took us like 9 months. Yeah.
This is amazing. So you guys chose some questions and then you submitted and resubmitted to get it approved? Was that the process?
Yeah, no. So when we started, we crafted with our sex therapists, doctors, etc. We crafted a big set of questions and answers, quite detailed. And then we submitted, feedback. We submitted, and that took months and months and months. And eventually, when you talk to Google and talk to Pleasure Finder, it's a very, very small set, but it is there.
That is so awesome. So our listeners just have to say, like, I want to talk to Pleasure Finder. Is that part of the kind of like, is the secret code? Or if you ask the question, it pull off the
correct.
answer?
So that was one of the conditions is people can't just ask the question. They wanted that barrier. So you have to say, talk to Pleasure Finder, and then that's it. So that was there, which is fine. For us, it's again understanding what someone's comfortable with and then working with that. I can send you the link. People can just click the link and go straight to on their Google Assistant. Yeah,
that is so cool. It almost feels like a speakeasy. Say the secret code, and you get to get the question. So I can talk about it. It's like so many different questions we wanted to ask you, but I know we're toward the end of our time. So tell us, this is my last question. Which one of your toys are your favorite? Which one you personally like?
Oh, very difficult. It's like picking your best baby. I think, and this is a question I get a lot from people who are undecided on which toy to buy, and especially because a lot of people we talk to, we are their first sex toy ever, right? So I think I would say Poco, the really small, really easy, very, very simple, but very effective product, would be what I typically recommend everyone, because it's very easy to use. It's designed specifically to be accessible and user-friendly, because this is our latest product. It takes in 7 years of feedback. And it's just a very simple, nice, solid product to start with. So with Crescendo and Tenuto, it's a much more advanced product, and it's something that has a lot of applications. But I would say Poco is the best.
It looked very, very kind of like you can change it, very flexible, beautiful colors. So it seems like it's something easy to use, and people can kind of apply it for different purposes. So if people are curious to learn about your companies, the research that you're doing, what are some of the good places that you recommend them to check out?
Oh, everything is on our website, MysteryVibe.com. So MysteryVibe, bringing mystery with vibes. So yeah, MysteryVibe.com, you have all our products, all the information. You can find the Get Started guide, all the ways you can talk about sex toys in the bedroom, and our beautiful page full of play images to get ideas on sex positions. So yeah, and our blog, which is 7 years of, I think, 1,000 different pieces of content. We write 4 every week, so it's a lot on every topic, from menopause to prostate cancer recovery to threesomes to sex parties, everything. Because everything can help someone bring mystery back, right? Whether it's a medical issue, whether it's trying a new kink. For us, all things are good. And we are not here to judge. We are here to provide well-informed, researched information so people can decide for themselves what is good for them. So yeah, I would say if they land on our site, check out which product, feature, and benefit really works for them. Check out the guides to talk about it. Just enjoy the various images with ideas and positions. And definitely read the blog. We always write really new and exciting posts every day.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your information and your journey with us. And for our listeners that are curious about the products, the link to the website will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you guys find our conversation useful and meaningful. I'm always intrigued with people who start sexual health companies because of the stigmas connected with doing this kind of work, and also the reward. You get the opportunity to change people's relationship with their sexuality. As I shared with you guys in the introduction, I got a sample of I got a Crescendo toy gifted to me, and I experimented with it. What I really liked about it is that you can bend the toy. It's fully customizable. So you can use it for exploring different erogenous zone compared to other toys that you get to use it for particular type of stimulation. But although that part was great, what was amazing to me was their app. They have a free app that gets connected to your toy, and they have almost a menu of different options for vibration. And it's like your own sexual playlist. I was very interested, and it was the first time I've seen anything like this. So if you are interested to try it out, you can use a link in the show notes. If you happen to use it, I love to hear what's your experience with it. And I hope you find it enjoyable. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to Sexology Podcast. For more great content, visit www.sexologypodcast.com. Please be advised that information presented on this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health provider.